Hello, everyone. This is the Red Medicine Show podcast edition. If you're a returning viewer from our Neil Breen episode, I'd like to thank you so much for coming back. I hope you find these podcasts entertaining while I have more episodes and edits out in the works. I'm doing this with my good friend Gizzymodo.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about a show that we both really enjoy, Succession. So, Gizzy, if you want to start us out telling us what you think of the show.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I think it's one of the best shows that I've personally ever seen. It's quickly become one of my favorite shows. Period. I really don't even know where to begin with this.
There is a lot to get.
There's just a lot. There's a lot. Just from the characters to the musical score to the way that it's shot, the evolution from the first season to the fourth in terms of its visual design, like it's just all very, very well done. And yeah.
Who would you say is your favorite character in that show?
Off the top of my head, Kendall.
Kendall?
Yeah.
Fuck the patriarchy!
I personally really like Roman, but before I explain why I like Roman, I want you to tell me, why do you like Kendall?
He's me, bro.
He's you?
He's me.
How is Kendall Roy like Gizzymodo? How is that? Tell me the connection.
He's a tragic Shakespearean fucking loser.
You know, I do get the big like Shakespearean vibe from that show, like the way they talk to each other, the way they plot. It's all shot in like different rooms that they're having meetings. Like there's no crazy action going on at all, but it's like the dialogue is so captivating. It's like you could easily substitute all of a Succession into like a medieval kingdom and it still would follow the same like beats. Like there's a wedding, they find out at the wedding someone's being betrayed, and like they talk about we gotta kill him, we gotta get rid of him, like and then they have like we can come together, like a merging of kingdoms, especially when you see like Logan Roy and like Mattson and they're talking like, this guy's just as powerful as me, we can merge, you know, like. And like when even with Tom and he's like, I'm marrying into like one of the most wealthiest families. It's like, yeah, it's like this weird medieval Shakespeare vibe, and their names gives me that huge like point. It's like Kendall Roy, Romulus Roy, Roman, and then there's Shyvana Roy. Like they have like these like these really like upper echelon fucking names, you know?
Yeah.
But personally, I really like Roman.
He likes me. People like me. I look like a matador and everyone wants to fuck me.
He's kind of like, he's the middle son. Well, if you're not counting Connor, because Connor is like out on his own thing. He's doing his own fucking, he's like in his own world, never had a job. He's honestly the happiest out of all of them, even though like he's the most delusional.
I'm not saying I would make a better CEO. That's unsaid.
It's not unsaid when you say it.
No, I'm not saying it, so in fact it is unsaid.
But he's the most happiest. But I personally really like Roman because like he's not the youngest, but he acts like the youngest, and he could have fooled me because when I first watched that, I was like, is he the youngest brother? And it's like, no, Shiv is the youngest. So it really shows you like the kind of trauma they had and how it like led to them to behave the way they are, because Roman can't even have like healthy like relationships with women.
You have a problem, Roman. A revolting problem in your head. This is why you'll never be anything but a disgrace. A rotten little nothing.
Like, it needs to be, like, wrong and taboo, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting how at least Shiv and Roman seem to have, like, daddy issues. I think Shiv in terms of, like, how do I explain this?
Well, like,
she mentions in the series, and I don't remember what season or what episode, but she mentions that like her dad has a very specific view of women, and maybe that's why she ends up being the most successful in a sense, because she grew up with somebody essentially telling them that, you know, her whole fucking life, I'm assuming, you know, so she feels the need to be successful. She's a careerist, you know. What was she? She was like a political.
She was like a political strategist.
Right. Like working with like different campaigns and whatnot, you know. And yeah, out of like the entire family, she's the one who has the most control over her own life, you know. And I guess that's what makes her story ultimately so tragic, is because she loses that sense of control, you know. She kind of becomes like a manifestation of everything she feared her father was right about, in a sense, you know. It's very tragic, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for her to keep her power, she had to, like, be in this, like, loveless marriage with Tom, which honestly I feel really bad for Tom because he's also like an outsider to them. Like they're all born into it. I don't know, obviously not Logan, he created the company.
Yeah.
But Shiv, Roman, and Kendall and Connor, they were all born into it. And like, with the exception of Connor, but like the other three siblings, like Kendall, Roman, and Shiv, they all think they're part of that world. They all think like they're the big hotshot billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
They think like they're the ones who are making the important decisions, but really they're just riding off of their father's coattails, with the exception of Shiv because she actually made a career for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Kendall was kind of just like a puppet for a while, like he was just there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's crazy to like think about. But Tom, like he was just like a middle class guy. Like he was working and he got that position because he worked for it.
Yeah.
And like he knows kind of like how to like kiss up to the right people. He knows like like the business world, the game, the lingo. And that's why he sees their cousin Greg as like this goofy outsider. He's like, yeah, he's kind of like me. I was an outsider, except I'm not as dumb as this guy.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think I was showing you clips of that Stanley Kubrick film Barry Lyndon recently.
Yeah.
Barry Lyndon, a film by Stanley Kubrick based on the novel by William Makepeace Thackeray, starring Ryan O'Neal and Marissa Berenson.
Kind of parallels Tom's story a little bit, if I'm being honest, which I know you haven't seen it yet, but to any of you who have not seen Barry Lyndon, I personally think it's Stanley Kubrick's best film, aside from 2001 and Eyes Wide Shut, but that's for another discussion. It's essentially just about this like loser who marries rich and basically fucks this woman's life up, which kind of parallels Tom's story in a sense, when that he's kind of.
But
like this
does he ruin Shiv's life?
I'm
I feel like
getting to that. He's kind of this like down on his luck, comes from essentially nothing. I guess from in Succession, I wouldn't necessarily say it was nothing because he does come from a middle class family, but. He comes from like lower echelons of society compared to like the Roys, and it's very similar to Barry Lyndon, where he starts low and he kind of just does things that get him to a point where he's accumulated like a certain amount of wealth. The difference is it's kind of like if Barry Lyndon won at the end of the story, because this story of Barry Lyndon ultimately is a tragedy, which I'm not going to spoil. But with Tom, depending on your point of view, like it is a victory.
It is,
at least for him.
Mm-hmm. But it's also kind of a victory with no dignity, I would say, because Mattson gives him that CEO role, but not really because he sees him as like someone to be CEO. He sees him as like a puppet. He literally tells him like, I just need somebody to be a face, someone to be like, okay, this is the guy in charge, but really I'm in the back pulling the strings.
Yeah. I'm not looking for a partner. I'm looking for a front man, because we're gonna cut shit close to the bone. We're gonna get right fucking in there. It's going to get nasty.
And so, like, you could obviously you could say like that is a win for Tom because like he ends up getting the company, he gets the big paycheck, but it's like at what cost though? You're just a puppet, and you're really at the end of the day he just becomes like a glorified fall guy. Even in the beginning they showed that he was going to be a fall guy for like the whole boat, the whole like Waystar like scandal with like the cruise division.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the obvious choices, and I hate to say it because he's such a swell guy, is Tom.
And they were just saying like, I love that episode, by the way. That's my favorite episode, where they're on the boat and they're all trying to decide who's going to take the fall. Yeah. And as soon as they bring up Tom, it's like, so it just makes the most sense.
Yeah. Laboratory time, human emotions extracted. Tom, I fucking love you, dude, but you shat the bed over Mo Lester.
And I was sent in there as the fucking beating man. I took the beating.
You got suckered in by Evis.
I answered the questions.
You don't answer the questions.
You don't answer the questions.
Okay, that's like rule one. I'm not beating up on you here. I'm just saying he got a win off you, and you're kind of the face of this, and I don't know. Look, I'm saying this, but I don't believe it. I'm saying it because this is the time we're all saying things.
Yeah, I think Tom works. There's kind of a clarity, I think.
Yeah.
That's what everybody.
Even Shiv, his fucking wife, is all like, "Oh, actually."
No, Tom looks logical.
What?
Cruises, document destruction.
What?
I'm not saying that it should be. I mean, I'm saying you're like family, which is good, but also not family, which is kind of good.
And like Tom's like, come on guys, and my favorite part is like Logan just in the middle of all that, he's just like, does Tom work?
Does Tom work?
He's like, that's his whole like Like, he doesn't give a shit who this guy is.
Yeah.
And then obviously the power move where he comes and eats his chicken. Like, thanks for the chicken, Logan. Like,
yeah. You know, it's funny that going into this podcast, guys, we're going to get a little meta here because we're going to actually talk about our podcast.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that we had a lot, I think before we started recording, we had a lot more to say about other characters and we ended up talking about Tom. Right?
Yeah. But I mean,
like, why, I guess I'm asking a very, I guess, rhetorical question in a sense, because I'm asking, like, why do we relate more to Tom? Well, it's because he's like us.
He is like us. He's a
down on his luck motherfucker.
He's a down on his luck guy. He's trying to figure shit out. And, like, when you're in that position where you're like, well, I guess I got to listen to this guy. He can kind of help. So
and his story kind of ultimately becomes a cautionary tale for, like, the audience, in a sense, where it's like, look what you have to do in order to move up in society.
Yeah,
look how artificial your life ultimately has to be.
Buckle up, fucklehead.
And it's... Yeah, and that's why, like, honestly, like, at the end of the series, like, I don't feel bad for any of them because I'm like, they're all still fucking billionaires. They could do whatever the fuck they want. Yeah. Like, fine, you lost the company, but ultimately it's like they wanted their father's approval. I'm like, I'm sorry you didn't get that, but you're walking out of this with billions. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like, you could start any company. That's why the only person I felt happy for at the end was Roman, because he's like, he's free. He's able to just, roam, man.
Exactly. He's definitely, he is a basket case of a character.
Oh, yeah.
The sexual hang-ups, I really thought they were going to make him gay by the end of it.
That would have made sense.
It would have made some kind of sense, yeah. But part of me does appreciate that they didn't, go all the way with that. But I don't know. He's a fascinating character, less because of who he is and more of like where he ends up.
Yeah,
because that's kind of what ultimately made him one of my favorite characters by the end of the series, because he starts off as like a scumbag.
You're widely known as a horrible person.
Thanks, Toe Jam. Why don't you?
And he ends as a scumbag.
He ends as a scumbag, but he has an opportunity to make his life better.
I think maybe, does he ever have a humbling moment other than like sending his dad the dick pic? That was really funny.
No, I feel like all of his like low points were like him being humiliated, him getting slapped by Logan, shit like that. You know what I mean?
Don't fuck with me.
Don't fuck with me.
Don't fuck with me. Hey.
You got his tooth.
Oh, but I mean, we do have to talk about Logan Roy.
Logan, dude, is like
the character.
The character.
You're fucking pirates!
And it's crazy that even when he dies, you still just kind of feel his presence almost. Yeah. It's almost like, man, he's watching them and he's just like, fuck these guys.
No, it's a testament to Brian Cox.
You're a nobody.
No, it's a testament to Brian Cox, who, I mean, he's an actor that like I've grown up with. I first saw him in like that X-Men movie that he was in. He played Stryker or whatever the fuck that character was called. And I thought he was wonderful. To me, this is his best performance, and everything that I personally have seen him in, he's one of my favorite actors. And
does he have the same character? Because I haven't seen adaptation, but you showed me that scene where he's up there talking to the guy about writing.
He
and
plays Robert McKee, if I'm not mistaken.
Do they have the same type of character? Because I was getting a Logan Roy vibe off of him when he was telling him, like, you think nothing is happening? People are dying, people are starving, and there's nothing? Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Nothing happens in the world? Are you out of your fucking mind? People are murdered every day. There's genocide, war, corruption. Every fucking day, somewhere in the world, somebody sacrifices his life to save somebody else. Every fucking day, someone somewhere takes a conscious decision to destroy someone else.
That's the quote. That is, I've adopted that into my lexicon. I think that's just Brian Cox. I think that's just what he brings to the table. He brings that. I think he does have a background in theater and like Shakespeare and stuff, so he brings that energy with him, I think, regardless of what role he ultimately is in. Because he's been in shit like The Ring. He was in that movie we saw, Trick or Treat.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, that was good.
He was in Zodiac.
Hannibal.
Hannibal Lecter and Manhunter, so I think he just brings that energy with him into his performances, and I think that's just what makes him such a fucking fascinating and actor.
He was like the selling point for me on that show. Even that opening for the very first episode, it opens with him like pissing on the carpet.
Yeah, I forgot.
And I was like, damn, like I don't know, like his whole character, how crude he was, how he would just say things, and like especially how he was treating Kendall when he was like, I heard you bend for him, when he didn't get that fucking deal.
I hear you bent for him.
What? I what?
I hear you bent for him. And he fucked you.
Well, no, actually.
Oh my God.
No.
I know you read a lot of books
What
and
was
stuff.
I showed you Bore on the Floor.
Oh, that is like
I think
another
that's
good
the
at.
one that I
Yeah,
showed
you showed me. I'm like, bro, I got to see this show.
I
Bore
was like,
on the
this is-
floor.
This is about as wild as it gets. God damn, is it wild?
You're like, Bore on the floor over there.
Yeah.
This this podcast is done by a couple of bores on the floor. You know.
Yeah.
I can't afford furniture.
Yeah.
Bore on the floor. Bore on the floor. Kendall, ring the troops. Bore on the floor. Bore on the...
Get us our booby prize, please.
But let's see. Like, yeah, I guess we got like way side like off. But I will just say like my favorite character in the series is Roman. When I first saw it, I didn't like him at all. He pissed me off. But as it went on, I started liking him more and more. He started just making me laugh. The funniest thing with him was like that whole rocket launch. And like he was in the bathroom and he like pulled out his phone. It was just like and that's another thing too about this show. Like it has a lot of comedic undertones to it. Like
Yeah.
I think Will Ferrell was a producer, right?
I think he was an executive producer.
So like I do think I feel like some people who worked on the show definitely were involved in comedy and like they wanted to put that in there because the scene that I haven't laughed so hard at a show ever since I saw like a panic attack scene. That scene just kills me. Look, full disclosure, I'm currently having a panic attack.
Look, full disclosure.
Yeah.
I am currently having a panic attack.
Like that just killed me. It's like it was like the humor, like it has that deadpan. It's like it's very like anti-humor. Like it's really in like the characters' interactions and how they. Yeah. When he was like, give me a ridiculous number, $1 billion, you know, he was just telling Frank. Frank was another good character too.
Oh, Frank is the most underrated character.
And like,
in the show.
and Carl, the whole like the panic attack guy, Carl, he was like, when they were on the boat, again, my favorite episode, when they're on the boat and they're like, how about Carl? He's like, yeah, why not me? I only worked for you for 30 years. And I was like,
No, why not?
Oh, these are just examples.
No, of course. Yeah, no, just go ahead, work for you for 23 years.
Yeah, Carl, man.
I liked him. He was, yeah, but still Roman's my favorite. And then second to Roman would have to be Greg. I really like him.
Yeah.
Just love seeing his shift. Like he comes in as a goofy, like little dork, like fucking kid who's trying to learn how to be a businessman.
Yeah.
And Tom takes him under his wing. And you just see it happen. My favorite moment with Greg was he's like, oh, I got paid, so I'm finally rich now. And like that was like, I was like, yeah, that's how I would be too. I'm like, hey, I could finally get some food and an apartment. And like,
absolutely.
And like Tom's like, I got to teach you how to be rich. And like that's just crazy. And another thing that I liked about Tom was like he was just very honest. Like even though he did like betray Shiv, but I feel like there was a lot like. He had more of a reason to betray her than everyone else, if you ask me, because he wanted a real marriage with her. She wasn't down for it. She betrayed him all the fucking time. And so he did it the one time it counted. But I will say he's honest. And the only reason why I say he's honest is because he straight up told Shiv, like, no, I like being rich. I like being able to have these materials. I like it.
Yeah.
Like, not many people just say that. Like, a lot of people want to hide behind the fact that they don't want to feel scummy for admitting that they want to be a materialistic person. Mm-hmm. But you have Tom. He's like, look, that's the whole reason why I'm doing this shit. I like being rich. Mm-hmm. So that I can kind of, I'm like, okay, fine. At least we know where you're coming from.
Sure.
So, like, that's why to me he's, like, honest. Everyone else, it's, like, so shifty and backstabby. And it's all because, like, I think at the end of it, they really did want their father's approval. I don't think it had anything to do with the company. I think they just wanted their dad to see them as being the one.
Yeah.
But that's, like, my whole take on, like, those characters. I know you were telling me Kendall is your favorite.
Yeah, Kendall's awesome.
So
he's kind of like the face of the show, other than Logan, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
That's the character people reference the most, and I think it's for good reason. He's the most human, in a sense. Maybe not necessarily in his actions. I don't know how many people can relate to killing someone by accident, which, But, yeah, he's just Hamlet. He's just Hamlet. He's one of those characters.
Explain the Hamlet parallel. Explain that real quick, in case if there's people out there
Mind you, guys, I haven't read Hamlet since high school, okay? It's been a while since I've engaged with Shakespeare, so, take all this with a grain of salt, okay? Essentially, I guess Hamlet is he's a type of character that's constantly doubting himself, doubting his actions, doubting what's happening around him. Kendall, I think, reflects something very similar. Kendall is not very sure of himself. He's intellectually insecure.
Yeah.
Like Shiv said in the first episode, and I can't remember what else it was, but he's just a fundamentally insecure person. And he doesn't know how to move past those things, and that's kind of what ultimately kind of leads him to his downfall, I would argue.
And he has addiction issues.
And he has addiction issues. My favorite moment in the entire series is at the end of season 2 when he fucking says, "Fuck you, Dad, I'm doing my own fucking thing. Yes, you're responsible, you tyrant piece of shit."
The truth is that my father is a malignant presence, a bully and a liar, and he was fully personally aware of these events for many years and made efforts to hide and cover up.
I think I cried.
And that little smile on Logan's face, that's my boy. He's finally being a killer.
Yes, kill them all.
Fuck off. And yeah, that was... one thing I noticed with Kendall throughout the show is they always showed him with water. He was always with a lot of water. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? I was like, at first, when I was watching it, I thought that means he's going to be born anew. Does that mean he's going to get the company? Does that mean what does it mean that he's always surrounded with water? And it would have, honestly, dude, it would have made so much more sense if he actually did just kill himself at the end, where he didn't get the company and he's walking out and then he just jumps into the fucking lake. That would have been perfect because it would have wrapped it all up to him, because they showed him with water more than anyone else. He's always in a fucking pool. He's always has the water around him. So I'm like, they got to foreshadow that for something. So I thought it would have been better if he fucking died. If he just went into the lake.
That's funny because apparently Jeremy Strong wanted that to happen.
Well, there you go.
If I'm not mistaken, the filmmakers decided against it because they said it would. I don't remember exactly what they said about it. They just chose not to.
It would have been too sad.
I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that him dying at the end would have added to the show at all. It kind of just would have made him more pathetic. Honestly.
That is true. I mean, he said that. He's like, if I don't get this, I'll die.
Yeah, I'll die. I have nothing to live for. And I guess the ambiguity of whether or not he actually, kills himself, I think is a little bit better because it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a chance that, he could see, the error of his way.
Well, I like to think that they're all fucking billionaires and they can start whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Except for Shiv. She kind of trapped herself, honestly, because now she's with Tom and she wants that power and that status. She's got to put up with a loveless marriage.
Like I said earlier, it's she internalized her father's viewpoints on women.
Oh, yeah, she became
that which he basically said was, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, yeah.
It's tragic. They're all tragic in their own ways. And you said, though, I do think that Roman has the best ending.
He does.
He's not shackled to anything. There's nothing really to tether his identity to.
And I just remembered he did have a actual humbling moment. It was at the end when she left and he was like, "We're just bullshit." He told him, he's like, "Dude, we're bullshit."
We are bullshit. You are bullshit. You're fucking bullshit, man. I'm fucking bullshit. She's bullshit. It's all fucking nothing. Man, I'm telling you this because I know it, okay? We're nothing.
That's the
We're
moment
bullshit.
Roman grew up.
He was he just realized dude, we were just born into this shit, dude.
We're Nepo babies.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we don't have any real skill. We don't have any real credentials. That's why that fucking... What was the guy's name that he tried to buy that... The very first episode, he tried to buy that Walter?
Walter, yeah.
Who owned it?
It was an Asian guy. I can't remember.
His name was Lawrence, I think.
Something like that.
But...
Lawrence screwed him over a few times.
And it's funny because to me, I always saw Lawrence is literally what Kendall wants to be. Yeah. This young entrepreneur making waves. Mm-hmm. This guy's already doing that, and you're just riding off the coattails of your dad. You didn't do shit.
But Kendall is self-defeating.
He is.
He's once again, he just doesn't really have a firm identity outside of being what others expect out of him, what others see him as.
Yeah,
he can't.
And that's perfectly showed in the birthday episode. when he's like 40th.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All the gifts he had were fake. That girl that he was with got him a watch. He's like, why would you? Because they don't fucking know you. And his kids, like, they made him a present,
Yeah,
and he
find it. Yeah.
couldn't find it underneath all the fake shallow gifts. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Did they ever show what his kids made?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
What do you think they made? Let's do a little theory right here. What did they make for their Papa Kendall?
Probably something cute. I don't know.
Probably this fucking macaroni drawing.
Yeah, like, here, Daddy, it's me and
Well, Dad, I'm gonna have my own media company. He's like, you little snake.
I can't have it. You can't either.
You fucking snake. He buys it off of them. No, like, honestly, Succession, it's a great show. I really enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I've seen like a drama that like hooked me, because again, it's like, it's not very action heavy. It's not very like world building or whatever the hell. It's very grounded, very real. Every scene is just people in different rooms talking to each other, but that dialogue just hooks you. It's insane. Like, especially for an HBO show, because they could have taken it, like, they could have really made this series about this is how elites party, and like they're sacrificing kids and drinking adrenochrome and having weird orgies. Like, it could have been like a whole Eyes Wide Shut type of series. You know what I mean? But instead, they were like, no, let's do it like in a way where we show all the grotesque stuff through the dialogue and talking about what we do to other people's businesses. And I'm like,
absolutely.
That's what makes it very brilliant to me. And that's why I see it like as also like, not only is it just like a modern show about like a media company, it's also like a Shakespeare like tragedy. Mm-hmm. It's also like a great medieval fucking like epic about kingdoms. Like, it's like Game of Thrones with no dragons, you know?
Yeah, Game of Thrones, but at Waystar.
And like, yeah, and I guess like one of the last things I really want to talk about this show that really had me sold is the soundtrack. The intro to fucking Succession is probably the best intro I've ever seen in any series. Like, I love it. That little Nicholas Bertel, he's a fucking genius. Fucking genius.
He's great. He's been around for a little while. He's I really hope that he gets more stuff under his belt.
I love the final score that plays at the ending of Succession. What's it called? Andante Risoluto, something like that. Man, that shit is so beautiful, dude. I'll be listening to that shit like walking around the house too. Like, I'm trying to feel like Kendall right now. I'm trying to feel like what it's like when you lose everything.
No, yeah. And I mean, what I really like about the soundtrack in particular is how, from like a musical standpoint, like, it's relatively simple the way it's written, but it's the instrumentation and some like little compositional choices that Nicholas Bertel makes that just makes it just elevates it. Because I've heard a lot of like scores, for example, with like the same chord progression as the Succession title theme. You know, it's very simple. You've written a lot of music, but once again, the way that Bertel implements like the instrumentation, and it just really makes for something that's really memorable. It's honestly, might be regretting saying this, but I think it is like the greatest TV theme ever like produced.
I'd say it's up there.
It's definitely
I love
up
it.
there.
I love it. I love listening to it. It's great.
Yeah.
I love watching the edit, like how it's all composed. Like, no, it's done really well.
Absolutely.
So I would give Succession out of a 10. You know, I'd give it a solid 8.5.
8.5. Okay.
Yeah, because again, like, it's very like, it could easily, as much as it captivates you, I feel like it could also lose you if you're really just not into those environments. Like, if you're not into shows where you see people in board meetings, if you're not into like just drama, really, like if you want something like actually has action and twists and turns, like, you're not really gonna, there's a lot of twists in Succession, but it's not like on the same level as you would find it in like in a crime drama or like a murder mystery.
Yeah.
So it really is for a show for people who just enjoy like dialogue, I guess. Like, if you love characters,
drama, character writing, characterization.
So
all that, yeah.
out of that, yeah, I'd give it like an 8.5. Honestly, like, I think it's a great show. It's
I do too.
it's I definitely want to watch it again.
Mhm.
But how would you rate it, Ivan?
I don't know. I don't really have like a value for it, honestly. It's not perfect necessarily. There are some. I think season 3 is the weakest for me personally. Just because the momentum that they built up towards the end of season 2.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, like, that ending.
Because then
I
like
think that was
Kendall's all
perfect.
whipped, yeah.
But then Kendall kind of becomes this just like this dumbass in season 3. That was like his lowest point to me personally, because of just like, you could just tell like what he was doing was out of this like sense of spite not because he wanted to establish himself as something outside of his father. So that kind of made for a very tedious season for me personally. But I think the highs are very, very high. The show made me cry multiple times. Definitely brought tears to my eyes more times than I can count. Yeah, it's a very, very well done show. If you like drama, like I said, and characters and all that, then this is definitely the show for you.
Yes. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to us rave and rant about Succession. This has been the Red Medicine Show podcast. Please stay tuned for more content coming your way. Thank you again. This is Red Medicine saying see ya.
This is Gizzymodo. Get the fuck out of my
Yeah, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Fuck off.